The Burnout series in the early 2000s was somehow doing quite well, as the original Burnout and Burnout 2 Point of Impact were both a success. But that wasn't enough to keep Acclaim Entertainment in business, and in 2004 they filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. EA acquired the developer of the series, Criterion Games, the right to the Burnout games, and the renderware engine for $48 million. In the same month that Acclaim Entertainment filed for bankruptcy, Burnout 3 Takedown was released for the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. It was published by EA, which shows how quickly Acclaim's assets were sold. You can also tell that EA had nothing to do with the game's development, otherwise it would have been released on every console that was out at the time. You complete the game by doing the World Tour. In the World Tour, you go to North America, Europe and Asia, doing races and crashing into traffic. There's quite a few different events in the game. You have your normal races, which I won't go into too much detail about. You've also got Road Rage, which is where you have to take down a certain number of cars by ramming them off the road. They do respawn, which is good because if they didn't, then you'd have a hard time looking for cars to take down. This game mode is a refreshing take on the racing genre, and no other game had anything like it. And even 16 years after Burnout 3's release, not that many games have included something like it. Then we get to the crash mode, which I think is the best part of the game. The idea of it is simple: cause as much damage as you possibly can. This game mode was introduced into the second game, but Criterion made it a lot better for this one, because in Burnout 2, all you had to do was find the best place to crash. And even though you need to do that in this game, the developers did make it a bit easier, as you can move the car in mid-air. So if you don't end up in the right place once you've crashed, then you can always blow the car up and then move to another part of the area and cause more damage. You've also got to get cash bonuses and score multipliers as well, and you can use the whole moving in mid-air thing to get those cash bonuses and multipliers, which might have been impossible to get otherwise. And it can be difficult at times, especially when you get the Heartbreakers, which then cuts the amount of damage that you've caused in half, which basically means that you have to start again. That doesn't really affect the gameplay that much, but it is a little bit annoying. Overall, the crash mode is a lot better than it was in the second game, and it is pretty much perfect. What makes the game relatively easy is the boost. Boost was available in the first two games as well, but it wasn't needed as much, and the whole boost system was a bit flawed. In the first game, it took you forever to get a full boost bar, and then you had to use all of it at once without taking your finger off the boost button. In the second game, you still had to use up all of the boost at once, but the developers did make it a little bit easier filling it. Then they made it even easier in Burnout 3, as you can string beans together, as the game puts it, to build up your boost bar even quicker. And you don't need to use all of it at once, so that was another aspect of the game that was improved. The game will give you a car when you've completed an objective, such as causing a certain amount of damage or taking down a set number of opponents. So even though you start off with not that many cars, you'll start building up your collection quite quickly. There are also a few other things that you have to get in order to complete the game, but they don't affect the gameplay, so I'm not going to talk about them. They're just things that are included to make the gameplay longer. Burnout 3 has 173 events, which does sound like a lot, but when you take the length of the events into consideration, then you'll realise that the game isn't that long. The gameplay is good, and I didn't get bored at all whilst playing the game, which is quite easy for me to do. I think the physics has a lot to do with that. Usually, I don't like arcade games, and especially arcade games with made up cars, but the developers made the physics so well. The physics go well with the tracks that the developers made for the game. The tracks in the series continue to get better with Burnout 3. There's more of a variety of tracks, as they are set in the US, Europe and Asia, whilst the first two games only really had tracks based in the US. A few tracks could have been set elsewhere, but it was mainly only the US. The tracks in Burnout 3 also look more detailed. The graphics aren't much better, but there's more things to crash through, such as street furniture. Overall, the tracks look amazing and the layout of them is quite good. There are also a lot more vehicles in Burnout 3 than there were in the first two games combined, and then times that number by 2 and then add a few onto that. In other words, there are 67 vehicles in the game. There's also more variety in the vehicle list, the models look a lot better, and there are vehicles that are suitable for the crash mode. In Burnout 2 there weren't any vehicles that could have been really useful when it came to crashing into other cars, as the developers removed the bus and truck that were in the first game. But they were added back into the series with Burnout 3, so you can use the bus or truck to cause a lot of damage. The vehicles are the second best improvement to the series after the crash mode. Burnout 3 Takedown is, in my opinion, the best game in the whole series, even better than Burnout Paradise. And even if you don't feel the same way about the game, it is easy to see how much of an improvement this game was over the second one, which I thought was a little bit unfinished, unrefined and had a lot of features that people didn't like, which is why the developers removed them from the series. Burnout 3 is regarded as not only the best game in the series, but also one of the best games on the PlayStation 2 in general. This is backed up by the ratings that the game got, which was mainly 9s out of 10. And it sold so well that it received a Platinum Sales Award. It was also the 4th fastest selling game on the original Xbox. So maybe if Acclaim Entertainment managed to keep things together for just a few extra months, then maybe they would still be publishing games today instead of having EA take over and eventually killing the series. This has been my review of Burnout 3 Takedown on the PlayStation 2. If you liked this review, then please give it a like. If you didn't, then give it a dislike, and if you want to see more, then please consider subscribing and joining the Discord server linked in the description. Goodbye.